What were your children like as toddlers?
Well, I must say I had absolutely no problem. But you hear now about children, and this is a problem child, and this is a hyper child, and this child wants to do this. And sure, they had once in a while they were a little stubborn, and especially my youngest, Karen, she was very stubborn. And that's how Carla is very stubborn. Her daughter is very stubborn too. Well, Ralph was the most good-natured thing you can imagine. He was chubby all the time. They called him the little schmelling, and he was built so strong and very, very reliable. If I told something, he took it very serious, and he always did. I even could go away sometimes for half an hour and go shopping, and he would stay home with his sisters, and he'd never open the door. We always lived on the 5th floor, and I know every minute I was away for them, I prayed to God, please God, don't let them fall out the window or something. But they never went to the window. Whatever I told them, he did, That was when we lived in the city. And in a country, I don't know, we had a closed-in yard, more or less. And remembering my old childhood, how wonderful it was to have a sandbox. The first thing, wherever we were, we always built a sandbox. Harold built a sandbox, and we brought in white sand, and the children were happy to play in the sand. And when he was very little, I remember I tied him once with rope to a tree or what, because I had to clean my house and cook or do something, and I was afraid he'd run away, because he was very little then yet. But else I never left him alone. I had absolutely no desire to go anywhere or what, unless my husband could go with us. And he was working, day and night, more or less. First he was a private chauffeur, and his time was not his own at all. And then later at the gasoline station, he left at 6 o'clock in the morning and came home many times 9 o'clock at night. So I really was alone with the children, and we were poor, we had no money. I never thought of going anywhere or shopping anything or doing anything. I enjoyed my children. They grew up, we played, and they were out. I'm an outdoor person. We went always for a walk. There was a lake not far away, and we walked over to the lake, and the children scampered around and played, and that. I had no problems. I never heard such a thing as problem children like you hear here,
So Haley and Karen were good kids too.
Very good. Very good. They all grew example from one to the other, And they were obedient when I said something, but we were always together those years. I was always together with them. I never went in. I didn't go movies. I didn't have friends. I didn't know anybody. I lived there, in that little place near the ocean. My biggest happiness was to be outdoors, like it still is. And I packed the kids up, and the little one in a baby carriage, and the other walked. We walked over to Spring Lake. We walked along the boardwalk, and there were not too many neighbors' children. Once in a while, a little neighbor child came in, but they all went in the sandbox then and played. And we had a nice life at home, because I was raised like that, to watch times for meals. There was absolutely no question about I don't eat and you don't eat and what. At that time there was meal time, and everybody ate what they were given. And we observed birthdays. We tried always to give them a little surprise for the birthday, no matter how little we had, even if, take an old doll and put a new dress on or something. And they loved sport, Ralph, when we lived in New York City, I'll never forget, we had a dining room, and there was a door, and we always had rings in the door and a trapeze. Because Howard and I, we both liked gym and liked exercise and a swing, they used to sell like a 3-piece set. There was a trapeze and rings and a little swing. So when they were little, they were swinging in the door, and when they got bigger, they reached the trapeze and were exercising at that or swinging on the rings. in New York City, I'll never forget it. We had a real gym there. We had a dining room there. You know, these old apartments, they had more rooms than now. And on the dining room table, they put an ironing board up to the dining room table. And then they climbed up on the dining room table and reached the door with the rings. And they were swinging on the rings. And then they jumped up on the dining room table, and then they slid down the ironing board. You know, it was like a gym set. And they had so much fun with that. And then I had a good friend, David, you know. He gave me, for the children, blocks out of the very heavy wood. They were building blocks. They were beautiful. It broke my heart. I don't know who I gave it to then finally.
Well, we had some, but I don't know if we...
Oh, maybe I gave them to you or what. They were just wood cut, you know, in different shapes, but it was hardwood and heavy wood, and you could really build. So the kids played a lot with that. And of course, Ralph must have had a little train or a little this and that, and the girls had tea sets. Yeah, I remember the tea parties. Haley especially, she loved to make tea parties and set the table with little cups and what, and Karen was a guest. But they played between themselves. They were very close. Well, they were born every 2 years, one every 2 years. And then, of course, we met a lady in the park. I took them every day to the park when we lived in New York City, when he had left already. You know, Spring Lake and the shore there.
Can we just go back to that for a sec? Because we missed that spot. You were living in Spring Lake.
Yeah.
Okay. He wasn't a chauffeur anymore. Grandpa was not a chauffeur anymore?
No, the man died.
Right. So then he was doing odd jobs.
Yeah.
And so you moved. You lived in.
And he couldn't find any work at all.
Right. So
we had to give up the apartment.
Right.
We went back to New York City and we rented an apartment there. And I always lived on the 5th floor, all the time. Walk up, because there were no elevators in the cheaper apartment houses. And I took those kids down. Really, I have to give credit to myself. I don't know how I did it. First, you know, Ralph had to wait and watch a baby. Then I took Haley and the baby carriage down. You had to take the 5 stories, because you can't live in New York City and leave the carriage downstairs. Then, when I packed up the baby, Ralph came with me. Haley watched the carriage when I went down. And twice a day I went from Columbus Avenue to Central Park and back. I went out 10 o'clock in the morning with the 3 children, came back 12 o'clock, gave them lunch. They slept till 3. From 3 to 5, we went to the park again. Because I didn't know a thing about raising children. And I read books, and it says take them to the park. And I saw all these rich people with the nannies and all that. They were always twice a day in the park. And while I was there, I met a lady who was a caterer or working, you know, catering parties for rich people and what. And she fell in love with Karen. Karen was a very beautiful baby with golden curls. She looked just like Shirley Temple. And she was always after Karen. And I got there twice a day, every day, rain or shine, I was with the kids in the park. And yeah, and she invited us a few times, and boy, she was an excellent cook. She baked cakes and wonderful dinners, and we all loved to go there because we had good food, and she always had presents for the kids. She had no children, and she loved the children. She loved Ralph, but especially Karen. Karen still has a ring, I think, from her, and she gave her all kind of things. And she wanted to adopt Karen. She was after me all the time. You have it so hard with 3 children. I never had a child. I'd give her the best. I'd give her music lesson. I promised I'd give her dancing lesson, everything. And I said, no, I don't separate my children. And then when I finally couldn't handle it at all, we decided, you know, through Olga's sister, she went back to Europe.
Who did?
Olga's sister.
Okay.
And to her mother, to visit her mother. Her mother lived in Riga. And Harold's mother and father, and even Maria and all my family, they always want to know the children. So I decided maybe if I'll be able to go to work, we'll get back on our feet, And so I decided, Olga, sister said, I'd take good care of them, I'd take them over on a boat and all that. We scraped that money together, I don't know. And there again, Olga, all of a sudden we found when we had them already on a boat, they called up and they said there's $35 missing for some kind of fees, I don't know for what. And I didn't know where to raise it, who to ask for. I had nobody to ask for the money. And I thought, here, we went through all that, packing children, putting them on boat, and now I don't know what will be. So Olga jumped in and gave me the money, lent me the money again, Mm-hmm. And I never forget what Olga did. She was a real, real good friend. Unluckily, later in life, we parted. We were not together anymore. And
so you sent your kids to her sister?
And no. She took the children, she watched them on a boat.
Oh.
And brought them to the grandparents. To Harold's parents. My father was dead, I think, or very sick already. I don't know if the children still met him or if he saw. My mother saw the children, I know that. And Maria, of course, was there. And me. Music, music lessons, and they'll be playing the piano and all that. And here I couldn't even afford to give them a piece of bread, practically. So that's why I send them to Europe. And I figured 2-3 years till they're ready for high school. And we'll save money then. And Harold and his brothers decided to make a business in Latvia. They bought trucks, we sent money over. We earned money and sent practically everything over. First of all, we paid for the children. We hired a governess who spoke English, that the children shouldn't forget the language. Yeah, of course there was that Mrs. Ullman. She wanted Karen. I should leave, at least leave one, you have one. I said, no, it's bad enough to part with children, but I'm not going to separate them. So, and then, the children were there, and then the war broke out and all that. And I wasn't a citizen then yet. I couldn't get them back.
What year did you send them over there?
1936.
Okay.
And I wrote to the Russian, you're not a communist. We can't give you anything. I wanted to go when a war broke out, at least to be with them, I went to the Latvian consulate. They didn't accept me as a Latvian because I was here already so many years and I had lost my citizenship. And only the Germans said, well, if your husband signs up to go into Hitler's army, then we'll give you the paper to go to Europe. Well, Harold refused. He says, I'm not going to go in any army for this guy, So we had no chance. I wrote to the I sent a telegram to the American consul to please try to put the children on a boat to Sweden, the Baltic Sea. And he wired me back, you cannot send anybody on a Baltic Sea, it's heavily mined. He says, I have my children here, and we stay here, and it's much safer to stay here than to go, cross. So we decided to stay, let them stay, and prayed that the war would be over. Who would think that it would be such a terrible war? They couldn't come out through Poland because that's where all the trouble started. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And then even the parents had to move away, and they were taken to Germany. That's when Mom got into that trek where she always says that the airplanes shot on them and right and left, and they worked for miles. I don't know if they did, because I don't know. I can't say a word.
Well, so from 1936 to 1941, which is when the war started, what was in that?
No, only America went in much later.
Oh.
It started already in Europe with Hitler taking over Poland and all that,
I see.
That's where it first started. So,
were you able to write to them at all?
Well, at first here and there, but then all of a sudden we were completely cut off. Completely, we didn't know anything. I went to the Red Cross, I went everywhere, we couldn't get any news. Till Danny was born 1946, that's the first time I heard from Ralph. Ralph had, that's what he told me, that's what I know. If that's the truth, I don't know. Because I never heard the story from the children. They didn't tell me really what happened to them. He was taken by the Germans. I have pictures of him, put in uniform, and he was working on the airport as a ground crew. Because he was only, 15 years old or something. And every time I see that picture, it turns my heart, that little boy in uniform. And then when the war was over, he ran away. He deserted the Germans, he and a few boys. And they start working toward, they heard the English and the Americans are coming. And here and there he told me his story, how they walked, and some of these kids got killed, they stepped on a landmine or what. He was lucky to reach the English army. And he said, I'm an American, I want to be sent back to America, And they didn't believe him, because he looked so German and his English, I guess, was broken or too good and what. So they sent him then to Belgium in an American camp. And I think he was there a year or what. And they interrogated him and tried to find out if he's really... You see, the grandmother told me that when Hitler and they had to move from Latvia to Germany, she burned up all the passports and everything, because she was afraid if they find out that these children are American, they would put them in concentration camp. So she said, they're my grandchildren and the parents are somewhere in the war, and she didn't have any American papers. So that's why we had such a hard time to find them.
Well, so she moved.
Well, she was moved around from they were settled in Poland, where Karen went to school, and Haley said she didn't have school, but I found letters here and I gave it to her, that she was going to school, and every weekend she went out with another boyfriend and what, and you never hear her talk about that.
Yeah. Well, we have pictures of her in high school.
Yeah.
On TV.
And I don't know. Well, high school here, you mean here?
Oh, it was
high
here?
School,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so...
Well, anyway, Ralph, finally, they believed him that he's an American. You know how they believed him? He told them how I took him along Riverside Drive and walked. I was always outdoors with the kids. And he saw the George Washington Bridge being built and getting up, and I told him that's a big bridge going over the Hudson River. He told him that. And then he told them about the the Sunday funnies. Harold used to read them all the time about Dick Tracy and Blondie and all these different characters. I never cared much for funnies, but that was Harold. Whenever he was Sunday home, he read the kids from the funny papers, And when he came up he knew all these funny characters, they believed him. So they said, don't you know where your parents are? He said, no, I was little when I came here and I lost track and I have no idea where they live. So they say, can't you tell us something that he did? He says, yes, he was a private chauffeur and he drove a car. So they wrote to the motor vehicle and whatever, and tried to find out if he had a license. And through his license, they found him. And then we got a letter from them that the child said, your husband has a license, Harold Sproge, are you the father of this boy? And we could write back, yes, that's our son. And then it didn't take long.
So weren't you excited to hear from him? How did you feel?
Don't tell me, I run through the halls and the people thought I'm crazy. I found my children, I run up and down the halls. They still tell me years after. They'll never forget how I ran through the halls screaming that I found my children. Well, then we
So that was Ralph, and so that...
Well, anyway, that was Ralph, yeah. We sent right away. They wanted so much money, and they said he's going to come back with the first transport of the American soldiers that came back. And we were expecting him in Boston. And I had Donnie. Donnie was 1 year old then. I had no children. I just had to have a child. That's why I had Donnie. And unluckily, I did the wrong thing again, see? But can you change it? You can change it.
No.
So,
So you're supposed to...
there was Hildur. You heard me talk about Hildur and Kathy and her kids.
No, I don't remember.
We lived in Mount Vernon in an apartment, and underneath me lived Hildur. And Kathy and Zani were the same age. And we took them out. Sometimes she took 2 babies in a carriage out when I had things to do, and sometimes I took her, I watched her baby, we interchanged. And Hildur promised me to take care of Zani and let us go to Boston. We could only stay away a week. We went to Boston, and we waited and waited every day and the boat didn't come and the boat didn't come. Finally, we had to go back. I had the child there, I had to go back, Harald had to go back to work. And then I think a month later, the boat came with Ralph. And that time we couldn't wait for him in Boston. It landed in Boston. My heart was broken. I wanted to see him when he comes off the boat. But they sent him by train to New York City. And we went to Grand Central to wait for Ralph. Now, you can imagine our excitement. How will he look? Will he do that? People come. Harald says, could that be him? I say, no, that doesn't look like him. Could that be him? I still, this feeling when we looked for Ralph. All of a sudden we see a big blonde guy, same old loud silver with a little stub nose and having a little suitcase made of wood. He had made that suitcase out of a piano top or something, it had these things so he couldn't. And he came and he looked nice, he had a tie and something, whatever he could find, to look nice. And here he came. We know him the minute we saw him. We knew that was Ralph.
So how many years had it been since you saw him?
Well, 36 or 10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Wow.
From 6, he was 16 years then.
16 years old?
Yeah, then we start asking him a question. Where's Haley? Where's Karen? No idea. He didn't know where they were. They were separated. He had no idea where they were. And then little by little, I wrote to my sister, and she wrote around, and what we found out. I wrote to the Red Cross, I wrote everywhere I could think of, sexual help and sexual help, and nobody could find them. Then finally, through my sister, she heard of a woman in a Polish town with 2 grandchildren. She said, got me the address. She says, write there and see if they are here. And sure enough, I get an answer. It was Haley and Karen and the grandmother. Then, of course, right away, paid in the money to Red Cross and everything. We send right away packages, food packages, because there was starvation in Germany. Now, Haley says the grandmother hid everything on the bed and eat, and she didn't give him anything. I can't believe it, but that's what happened. And then Haley wrote me a letter. They wouldn't, that was terrible for me. I thought they'd be so happy to come to us, and what? They wouldn't come if the grandmother wouldn't come. She tells me the grandmother stood with a stick over her back and she had to ride it. And I thought, are my children really that strange to me? I couldn't, the woman had cancer, she was not well, she was not old. I had nothing to get her in. How could I get her in here? We were still poor because all our money had gone to Europe. We didn't have much money. And I don't know. I couldn't get them. Then they tried, I guess, to get papers or what, but I insisted I wanted children back, and as soon as it's possible, and through the Red Cross, somehow or other they arranged them that they came.
So you didn't have to pay to get them
Oh
back?
yeah, I had to pay.
Who do you pay? The Red Cross?
Yeah, Red Cross.
Really?
The Red Cross, we had to pay, I don't know, what, $130 or $230 or something. But we had a little savings by then because we had lost track. We couldn't send the money anymore or anything.
So how was that reunion?
And that meeting was very, very emotional, boy. You saw the picture when they came down. Karen so thin like a little bone. And Haley was beautiful. And but they didn't want to talk much either. There was a strangeness, And then, of course, Harold and Ralph didn't get along. Harold had been here a year. And Harold, you wouldn't believe it, he was jealous of Ralph. Ralph was a big strapping fellow, many times he sat on my lap and he hugged me and all that. And Harold was furious. And little by little, he never took to Harold much. He wanted a girl all the time. Haley was his love, Especially Haley, my God, he kissed her hand and feet and when she was born and all that. Lucing, he called her.
Lucy?
My Lucing. Haley, Halusing, and we in the Latvian Baltic way, like Ralph. Ralph never called himself Ralph. He couldn't say R, so he said Lauli. No, instead of Ralph, he said Lauli. And he became Lauli, and then Lautze when he got bigger, and he still is Lautze, call him Lautze. And he calls me Kautze. Kautze means cow, because he was always making fun of me that I swim so slow. He says, you swim like a contented cow. And so he coined the word Kautze. And he always has a nickname for everybody. Karen was Bonesy, because her bones were so thin, she was so thin, so undernourished. And Haley was Gaga. Gaga means hen, little hen, because she was always with her children and busy and like the mother hen. So, and he had a nickname for everybody, and I still think he uses the same nickname.
Now what about them meeting their little sister?
Well, Ralph was very sweet. He enjoyed her. He took care of her. He put her on a swing and talked to her and all that. But that is the Armenian. Oh no.
You want me to open?
Well, yeah, she can come. She brings my pin bag. Tell her. She knows one sentence English. Say, the birds. No. Say, the birds sing in the tree.
Sings the bird, and dreams. I don't play. Come in, Norwich, Nick. I love you. I don't play. I tell you.
I tell her, no, she don't believe me,
I really love my sister.
Yeah, sister.
Kevin, bu ay sister, Mama.
Yeah.
Kevin.
You got my pin? Me. Give back.
Okay,
My pin.
Pin?
Yesterday.
Come here.
Okay.
Come here, Mama.
Oh, yeah.
You get
come here.
Come here.
I want back. Yeah.
Wish me to yes, wish me.
I don't know if I'll get it because I put it on her because she looked so pretty,
Okay.
And I thought she'd give me back, but I don't know if I'll
Okay, yeah.
Well, you want to my grandma's cousin.
Also, wish me yes, put in Tunti. I think
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Tunti.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Everything is thank you very much. I'm happy and I love you. Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah.
Thank you, mashallah. Mashallah, be married, you should Mr. Biamo go play, okay?
Okay.
Romantic.
Yeah. Romantic. See?
I know romantic. I know I mean, no.
You should hear when she sings her songs for me.
Okay.
And all kind of
Okay.
language, yeah.
あちちですな。君おたわしよ。 Bulacağın Hasan, abitiniz, mes operasyon. Öyle gibi, lazım operasyon, nasıl?
Yeah. You will see better.
Nasıl?
Yeah. She can
No,
see with
okay.
one eye. Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah. Well, you make operation and you be alright.
Aşın.
Yeah. No, that don't help. You have to have operation. Operation.
Operasyon.
Yeah. Operation. Yes, I remember. You know, she had my
Happy. Happy.
Yeah. She had mashed potato. I don't know how to say potato. Finally, after I say pomme de terre, no, that's French. I say kartoffel. No, kartoffel. No. She says potato.
Zaten German.
Yeah.
Plavura. German.
See, we work very hard.
Okay.
Yeah, she make picture. I talk.
Her life?
Bravo.
Life?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, I tell her, I mama, her mama,
Yeah.
my Tonica, little
My
girl,
Tonica,
and yeah.
Şimdi bakıyorum. Aferin şimdi.
Yeah.
Okay. Boy, bu şimdi vatan.
Boy,
Boy vatan.
Vatan.
Katın vatan. Armeyan katın vatan.
Strong man, Vatan.
Vatan.
Yeah. Vatan. This one. If I
Vatan.
remember,
Okay.
I have a dictionary, I look every word, but you know, the way they're written, I can pronounce it the way she pronounces it. And she knows exactly, you know, if there's a G, she's, you know. So I can even read the words in the dictionary. So you like dinner? You like party?
Okay.
Yeah. It's same.
Geçen telonla zayıftılar.
Yeah. But you were very mad.
Ha, evet. Ay,
Don't look at her.
üzülme ismi.
Yeah.
Arabon, ayvon, yani no. I know, I mean,
Her name.
San, 03, ayvon, home, Virgo. Ha, Azizay. No, please, or, no, Avanta.
Nora, mistake, you know? Give me my dictionary. Mistake, I'll tell you what was.
Şımarık,
Yeah.
morik.
Shinori?
Morik.
Mistake.
Akçık, şimdi.
Indeed, yeah. Everything is thank you.
Güzel.
Mistake. Midwife.
Akçık görürsün. Söylüyor aşık yapacağım.
Kahali?
Harali,
Kahali?
gühali,
Yeah.
yani gühali.
Kahali? Or very bug. Very bug?
Biri bankın söyle.
A mistake. Like, you're right, not good. Mistake.
Misunderstanding?
Sharagi?
Is
What
there
was it?
misunderstanding? Is there a word for that?
You see, the way they say, they pronounce the S's, the G's, the H, everything.
Kaşık de.
And I can't read. I
You
sit
do
here with
kaşık.
the English letters and she pronounces. It's hard.
Aybiyan, Armenyan, Türkü,
Yeah.
Arabi, okey, Fransa, okey, ben Morta, Fransa, ki de. Morta, alla montagna. Go, yani, piknik.
Yeah.
Where you go, haber yok.
Picnic, see, she knows a few words. Yeah. But we can't understand.
Morta.
And people, they want to help you.
Jeratçıyım.
See, she says she claims she had signed her name, and they didn't find her name. So we looked all under Nora.
Diyorlar, geçeceğim Hüseyin canım. Kıre, yes, pun, nigar kaşı. Ay, you,
Yeah.
can I go,
Yeah.
sen, bizi nigar.
Video together,
What is
maybe?
Virginica?
Ay, you, hon, can bizi ne? Asan,
John? John has girlfriend.
you, ay, ama götüre çubuğun ondan.
I don't know what they're talking.
You, ay, bizi sura, foto.
You and I friend, that's all. Sister. Yeah. Forget it.
Ay, bizi hon, canım güzel, ince pendi, nigar kaşı.
Okay.
Bu kanı, şimdi nigar.
She brings me all the time.
Camera.
Then she brings me an apple, then she brings me a can of soda, then she brings me that. You know,
How hard it must be. How hard it must be to get by.
very hard, yeah. And you know, the women pick on her all the time, and I have a time to tell them, to explain them. The other day they told me she's gypsy. You know gypsy? No. Bohemian. She was in Paris. Madame in Paris.
Madame,
Yeah.
Mrs.
She had a big apartment.
Madame, Mrs. Mademoiselle,
Mrs. Yeah.
Mademoiselle, Miss. As Mademoiselle.
Miss.
She's Mademoiselle.
Miss. Mademoiselle.
Ah.
Mademoiselle.
Madame.
No, I'm Madame, she Mademoiselle.
I'm Mademoiselle.
You Madame.
I'm Madame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someday we're going to get together. She knows a few words of French, but that's the only way where we can get a little bit. Like bombardement. She saw the refugee. That's how I met her.
What's that?
I looked her up. She wanted to know how the...
Bombardement.
Yeah.
No, appartement.
She had a beautiful apartment, a salle manger, that means a big dining
Salon,
room.
manger, salon, home, salon. Room, I must be on the big. I mean, okay.
Okay, for us old women, okay.
I know, see, I
Yeah.
need to
She can't see much.
I'm making us.
She's so animated.
You should have seen yesterday when she came up early. She was all excited, all dressed up and beautiful. And I was sitting here and changing my clothes, you know. And she saw me in my bra. She couldn't get over it that she had no breasts and I still had a bosom. I tell you, that's so good.
I sleep.
Yeah.
On the telephone. No.
I know. Telephone good, yeah. But Cindy go, I can't go out here, see? Yeah. She said, come here. Yeah. No.
I said,
I
yes.
said, wait. She says, wait, Elfie, come. I go there. No, Nora. I said, that must be Nora. Yeah. She called me. I was here. I have to climb over that board.
Thank you. Okay.
So I go to telephone. No more. Yeah. I think it must be Nora. She'll come up. See?
Okay.
And Nora come up. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Every sentence is ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you can tell your friends about the crazy girl. I could tell her that she don't believe it, you know. Oh, this all happens to me, Cindy. I don't mean it. But I fall into it.
Very açık maşallah. Güzel günüme göre açtı.
Nice, pretty good. Yeah.
I
love it very much.
I had a magic care pastun, a voice. I uçum. Yes, I uçum. You uçum.
What is uçum?
Uçum. What?
Oh, right. Wait, not here. No. This is not here.
No. Okay.
Here.
Thank you. That's our lieutenant.
Right. Put, here. Oh, I bought that for her.
All right.
I'll show you that.
I don't know that.
It says, very insulted.
Which one? No.
Yeah. See, we can't read that. See, that's her name, Nora. That's Nora?
Yeah.
She writes Armenian letters.
It looks like Aiden.
Which one?
That Nora?
It says 80.
Yeah. And how's your other name? Kachaturian? No. Kachaturian.
Kaleshian.
Yeah. Write down Kaleshian. Yeah. But see, they couldn't say that they thought somebody scribbled, so they didn't have a name on the list.
Didn't that say 80?
Huh?
It looks like it says 80.
It looks like 88. When 80, I asked how old she is. Finally, she took my finger and she made it. Yeah. See, we...
Kaleshian.
Yeah.
After a miracle. Shinorik Nora.
God.
Okay.
Okay. See? We can't read that.
See?
I big.
Yeah, you write that and they don't think. They think somebody scribbled. They don't know. That was her handwriting.
Yes, I big.
Can you write in English? No, you can't write in English. Telephone. Yeah.
It's a telephone. No range
That
person.
will be Vink. Tell her come up. The more the merrier.
Oh,
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Nice.
no, I thinking that
Nice. Very good.
Nora.
When you go office, you write Nora
And Nora,
or you write this way?
she know it, Nora.
See, this they can't read. They don't know your name yesterday, remember, Party?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So much character.
How you like this?
And she's talking like crazy, but you don't understand a word
Che
she's
con
saying.
you,
It's amazing, the
Masha.
exact message. She gets it, it really is unbelievable.
Okay. You work, I go.
I work
Right now, the
2
I
o'clock.
go.
No, sit. My daughter likes you.
You're in the bedroom.
She likes you.
Oh,
She like you. She like you.
Okay. Yana aslında bir şey Yusuf Kristus telefonki torunu gösterdi.
Yeah.
I
See,
wish you
the telephone ring. I have to climb over. I can't. Over there, I can go. So, this is after
Tomorrow tabii artık
Yeah. Okay. We had fun, huh? Nice, good dinner, eat. Very good.
Very
Nice. Yeah. Very
I
good.
yani no.
along with Nora.
Ama bizi okay. Ama o bizi 1, 0, 3, I be home. Yani bizi no. Bizi hayvanlar. Ay you bizi home. Hay. No işme. İşme bir şey kişiyle bir kol. Bir home bank bir bank.
I don't know what you
Now that
say now.
are you bank blue? No, she blue. No. Tahari polis. I home. I bizay. Ule mama. Please, Misty. Mine. No, okay. I want home. Home T, B, 1, 0, 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, telephone. Yeah, very good. She answered phone, but she didn't know who were talking. I would know right away. Nora called. I even said, maybe hang up. Nora, she didn't understand.
Since okay. Nahans. I know that.
My Broadway tickets.
Husband, Germany. I said, no Germany.
Which is Germany?
Must Germany.
I don't think it'll be
I
tomorrow,
push
maybe.
Germany,
I was
mama.
thinking maybe hit.
Your husband?
Vegas last weekend, so.
No.
Since husband.
Oh, Ginger.
Germany.
Ginger.
Ginger, the hot ginger.
Yeah.
I home. You busy called the
No.
Marilu, Lakshmi. I'm
You
not
know
busy.
Ginger
I got not busy.
Yeah.
Oh, don't say hi, mama. How are you, mama?
Thanks for calling, bye.
No, okay. No, okay.
Different people. Who was that?
Mom.
Yeah.
My mother.
What did you tell her?
My mother.
My Tonika telephone. Call.
Okay,
She said,
video gamit mi Okay.
All right, one sec. She's going to bed soon, 7 o'clock. She has to be there at
she has to be
4:45.
very early. Yeah.
4:45. She has to be there. So.
All right, I won't call
So
her.
I said, I'll tell Grandma not to call.
Yeah.
But she said hello and just want to see how it was going. And
Okay.
So.
Did you tell her I called the video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. This is funny.
Well, see,
Maşallah hiç mama iyi günüm
it's not an old woman's home, you know.
Hiç kere günüm hiç.
You know that little dictionary costs $40?
Really?
The price is in there in the front. Open the front here. It says $39.95.
Wow. Yep. Well,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, what, she go and talk to you?
No, I don't know. So it's in
The
English.
front is English.
English is
Balkon hiç kere
You know, I can't.
Balkona unpaced flower.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah, I flowered on that.
Okay.
No, that's not flower. That is artificial. Artificial.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
You? Açıkla.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know.
It's not.
Oh, yeah, see,
Yeah.
you're still? Oh, good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Uh-huh.
I'm very açıkla.
I don't want this. You want you want that white pot, the white? I don't want it. I don't like it.
Mesela. This one, you can.
Cactus.
Halatın, excuse me. Halatın ayısı bu info.
Okay.
Flower percent info.
Yeah. So what, tell her send her home?
Well, Unless you want to
It's
finish.
such a good, huh?
Well, what are you going to do for dinner?
Will you eat dinner with me?
Well, what are you going to do?
I don't know, but I'll cook. I have fish. I was going to cook fish today.
Well, I don't
Salmon steak, very good. Will you like it?
Yeah, hang on. So whatever it says here, English, and then in her language,
Yeah.
it doesn't really translate.
It's translated with English letters.
So it's hard to say if it.
What word do you want?
I want to say life story, your life story.
Story?
No, your life,
Yeah.
which is
Life. Okay. Look on the life.
which is Geank.
Geank.
Gink?
Jink.
Jink?
Jink, you know what jink is?
Dziękuję.
Jink?
Dziękuję.
Armenian?
No.
Armenia Żyd, ha.
Life? No.
Yeah.
Life.
Jest porażka.
Life.
It looks story.
Dzięk.
Okay, hang on.
Dzięk, rewolu, trąg, dzięk.
She thinks that
Or
she...
gink. Did they have G's?
I don't know how they pronounce it. It said it in a forward how to pronounce, but I can get it. So between her not able to see and me not able to pronounce it, the dictionary doesn't help much.
I go, you work on that. Thank you very much, thank you.
Okay, Nora, I'll see you tomorrow, okay? You like baked potato?
Mm-hmm.
You eat more than one?
No, one's fine. Okay, so we were talking about how your children treated, their new little sister, Uncle Ralph, and
You know what? Really, the little sister was absolutely in the background. The big people, the people who came to me, the children I had missed so long, it was their life. And I only concentrated on them. I didn't even think about that they wouldn't accept the sister or not. I didn't even think about it, Cindy. I always thought, what can I do for these kids to make up for them? And that's where I got in trouble again. I gave, Haley was developed and nice, and she looked like a young lady, and my clothes fitted Haley. So I gave her my suits and dresses and everything because they had nothing when they came. And here, all of a sudden, Karen developed such a jealousy. She wanted the jewelry, she wanted that, and it didn't fit her. She was like a little girl. And that was big, and I was very unhappy. And I worked, I went every day to work, and Karen usually picked me up at the station. I had to commute by train to New York City. And sometimes Haley came and they got me, and I was always so happy. I thought how wonderful that I have somebody to look forward to when I come home. I was always alone. But then later on, everything was so distorted. It seems that we had different feelings about it. So what is there to say? And I thought we had a nice home, and we all lived together. Of course, we had only 2 rooms and 1 bathroom. And at night, I had to make up toilets, and what we couldn't find. At that time, it was very hard to find apartments. They were very scarce. And we made up, mattresses on the floor and this and that to get everybody sleeping. And I don't know, the kids had, as they told me, they had seen films and movies, and American people always had a beautiful home and beautiful rooms and furniture, and we were poor, we had nothing. I couldn't give them more than what I offered them. So they were disappointed from the beginning. And Ralph thought he's a big shot, and I remember he didn't even hardly want to finish school. I told him you have to finish school. And what?
He was still in high school? He was still in high school?
Yeah, he was finishing high school. And did he work then? I don't know if he worked to make a little money, because I had nothing to give them. I was glad I could feed them. And at that I had heard all kind of stories. Well, I don't like to talk about it.
Okay, we'll talk about just the facts.
It was a lot of disappointment in a way. In a way it was a big joy, and it seemed to me I couldn't reach it, because they had other ideas. I didn't fill their expectations, And then of course Harold had one of his worst times. He didn't even earn money, I can't pay the rent. I'm sorry.
That's right. Do you have to?
I didn't know if I could pay the rent, and I was always worried, and it was very hard.
So what was Grandpa doing at this time?
He was on and off. For a time he had a job, and then he had no job, and I don't even like to talk about them. And it was not a good time, Cindy. We didn't start on a good footing and everything. And
do you think
then of course Haley went, she tells me, I don't know that she did in high school, maybe the last year. She said she couldn't fit in and she didn't want. So I said I'd send her to New York to take a course in hairdressing. And which she always doesn't seem to be happy about the work. And Karen was still going to school, and then Haley went to work as a hairdresser when she went down. And not long after that, they got engaged, and she married and went home. And when Karen finished school, she went into the army, because she didn't know what she wanted to do really. And there she met Joe, and then they got married. And Ralph, of course Ralph got in a little trouble with Jackie, and he had to marry, and Harold, unforgiving, shameful thing and all that. I had to do all what was, I don't like to talk about it.
Don't, if you don't want to. Thing is,
well, anyway, Ralph, I don't want to say all what I want to.
Okay.
So then Ralph married. I had to sign the papers by myself. Harold wouldn't give us. Ralph was only 18. And Jackie, they were going to make trouble for him because Jackie was great. So he had to marry.
Do you think he was one to talk? Do you think Grandpa was one to talk?
Grandpa?
Well, your husband. Uncle Ralph, you guys weren't married when you got pregnant?
Oh, no, Cindy, turn it off.
Okay. All right, so the kids finished. Haley and Karen.
Haley went, learned the hairdresser. She was allergic to it and what. But that was not. I think she fell in love with Tom. And that was so cute. That's a cute story that I always like to tell. When we had to go over the bridge to the train, and Tom's father's gasoline station was on one corner, and Haley had to go to the other corner to work, but she worked in the beauty parlor. And she always looked at Tom, and they looked at each other and smiled at each other, and she wanted me to see who Tom is, So she always says, come with me, Mom, come with me, and look, but don't look. Look, but don't look, And that sounds so cute. I always think of that story about that look and don't look. And I say, how can I look? How will I know who he is if you don't allow me to look, And so you looked.
So you looked finally.
So I looked with one eye and this and that. But what would I do? She was in love and she was unhappy home, and she wanted. And then Harold gave us a lot of trouble. And that I understand that Haley can't forgive. I'll throw that out, Cindy, because I have pressure.
Okay.
And
So you had problems and then,
I had a lot of problems with my children, was getting married and all that. And I was just schlepping and going to work and coming back, and I couldn't do anything. I just tried to keep a roof over our head and that we could stay alive, you know. And then later when Haley left and Karen left and Ralph had gone, then I was with Jenny alone.
with Annie.
And then I had to have babysitters. And that was not easy, believe me, Cindy, because I had to go to Long Island and I didn't know if the people would show up to pick her up from school or not. What's going to happen to the child? Luckily, I have friends. I always have good friends. There was Dorothy Lady, and there was Hildur and Anne Fleur. They were my best friends. And they said, don't worry, we'll keep an eye on Johnny, and if the babysitter doesn't come, she can come in our house. And they helped me a lot. Sunday, I always had to work every Sunday because I was a waitress, you know. That was our busiest time. And Harold was just drifting around.
So you needed to work to support, the family? No.
I supported the family.
That's what I'm saying.
He had no money at all.
Yeah.
And if he had money, he gambled it away. He was a terrible gambler. That was more than his drinking that killed, you know, my life, more or less. But he never had money. And so, with the help of Dorothy and Anne and my friends, you know, we got there. And then, when Jenny went away, when Zani went away, you know, Zani finished school, I paid for her a correspondence course, you know, in one of these business schools. And when she finished, she called me up. I was working in Long Island as a waitress. She called me up and I said, well, Jenny, did you get Zani, did you get your certificate and everything? And she says, oh yeah, you know what I did? And I thought you got the job already. And she says, I just signed up for the Air Force. And that went all to pot. So she signed up for the Air Force and she went away, you know, and she was accepted by Eastern. She had applied different ones, but she was too tall at that time, you know, the planes were...
Wait, so the service didn't work out until she decided to be a stewardess?
Oh, no. She went first in the service, yeah. That's right, that one. No, it worked out, but she had terrible allergies and stuff, and constantly struggling with all these rashes and what. She was a nurse, you know, that was her job in the Air Force. She went through basic training and all that. I think she was 1 or 2 years. Or did she finish? I don't think she finished. She was honorably discharged because she had too much trouble with her skin and all that. And then she applied for stewardess, you know. And she went to school and she was a valedictorian in that school. She was very good, you know. And
So she was about 21 at that point. It was 19...
I have that thing. I can't tell you the dates exactly, pictures.
She was born in 1940?
45.
45.
Yeah. Wait, I have it here in the calendar. In the atlas. Which atlas? Which one? Or was it in the... No, it's not this one. It must have been the dictionary. I do have another atlas. You know, my head is not here yet. I don't know if the date is there. See, the valedictorian of her stewardess class is Miss Elizabeth N. Sproge. It doesn't say what year. Well, anyway, that's it. And then I had the picture of her whole class, you know. Well, she went to Florida, and the first time she came back in her uniform, that was the same impression like when I saw Harold all dressed up, you know. She looked so gorgeous in her uniform and white gloves, and two guys dancing around her and helping her here and helping there. I thought, oh my God, is that my daughter? You know, it was really fun. And
That's okay, Graham.
yeah, well, from on, I like to refresh my memory all the time. I put these things in the books. Yeah, here is her class. Maybe there is the year. Also, didn't put down the year. That's something. See, that's her graduating class. And she was the valedictorian of all these girls. Here she's. But I don't know, it doesn't say here either. She was a white gloves, I tell you, I was so surprised when she came off the place, the first plane. And I don't know, and then she met, oh no, she was in love with one guy there, I know, but he let her down. He just had a little love affair with her, and when she left, you know, Florida or wherever they were stationed, she never heard from him, or was he in the army, I don't remember. So, and then she met Bill, and they fell in love, and she married, and they were married, what, 10 years or 8 years or 12 years, and then that went to pot. No, I think they were married 8 years before she had Jenny. And then when she was pregnant with Jenny, Bill was running around with another woman.
And that was the end of that.
That was the end of that. So,
Does Jenny know that?
I don't know.
Because I won't put that in if you don't want.
Yeah. No, you can put it. I think she, Ronnie must have, because she hated Bill, you know. It was not a friendly divorce at all. And then he didn't give us child support, you know. He had already 3 kids to support himself. And he was always late, and they were always fighting about that. And it was terrible. That's why I say I don't even like to think back about my life or whatever, because I want to forget it, and I do forget it. To me, I have no grudge against Bill. Ronnie was just as much at fault, you know, because she was always flying. She was 3 days away here and 3 days away there, you know, flying, and when she came home, Bill had to go to bed to work. One thing I have to give her credit, though, she insisted that Bill, you know, finishes his studies, a university course, got his degree, bachelor or whatever degree he got. And she helped him a lot. I remember she was sitting and typing his schoolwork and everything, and she always said, Bill, you have to finish your education, you have to. So he had 2 years, but 2 years, and then he got out and became a policeman, you know. And that's where she met him, as a policeman. And, well, things don't go straight all the time.
But sometimes they do, and that's what keeps us going, I guess.
Are you taping it? Turn the light on, there'll be more light. This, no, this pushing up.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, what can you do with this, Cindy? When you look back at a long life, I'm lucky that I can forget the hardships. I really can forget them. And I'm happy to what comes every day. I think what helps me very much is that I like nature so much. Ever since I came to Arizona, I'm very happy because I can be outdoors a lot. I can enjoy, you know, and that's what it is. I enjoy looking at your face, your emotions, on and off. Enough, huh? I think I've had it for one day. Look, please, Cindy, don't take the couch with all the junk on my shopping. Oh, Cindy, please, I'll take that away and throw it on my bed. Then
Okay.
you can take the couch. But this is just, my house is always so neat. But you surprised me today with coming here and all that. This is awful. I never live in a house like this. I'm so forgetful. I turn my kitchen around every now and then. We didn't work a match. Valuable because this picture is 150 years old. Would you believe it?
1865?
No, 1865 my father was born. 1870. So it's 30 and 92. That's 122 years
Yeah, I'm
old.
going to try and get it clear.
Look how she dressed. Blue jabot, and she always wore something on her head. She was used as she always had some lacy scarf on her head.
Forget it. I can't.
Her name was Laura.
Who was Laura?
This one, Laura.
And that was your,
Huh?
that is your father's mother.
Yeah. I guess.
And that's your father.
Yeah, that's my father.
this is your father.
This is my father.
Let's see. Okay, this is your father. Okay.
And that's Sinia of Latvia, when Latvia became
Okay.
Latvia.
And this is the graveyard. Where's that located here? Where's that located?
In Liba. Liepaja.
In Latvia?
Yeah, in Latvia.
Okay.
Well, now is it Latvia again? I don't know how to call it.
And that is, this is the same woman.
Yeah, the same woman.
You don't
The
know,
old grandma,
you don't know her name?
Laura.
Oh, Laura.
Yeah, what was her family? I knew her family name too, and I forgot it.
Drop my pen.
Well, of course, she was a Meyran after, because she goes by all our name, Meyran. She was Meyran, and he was Meyran.
M-Y-R-O-N.
M-E-Y-R-A-N.
Okay.
M-E-Y.
M-E-Y-R-A-N.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next.
Johannes. Johannes.
Oh, I thought you,
My
okay.
father's name was Johannes.
But you don't know,
Adam.
you don't know his father's name, you
I
said.
don't know. I think it was Frederick, if I'm not Frederick. No, it couldn't have been Frederick. I don't know.
Okay.
Never met him. Now this is again my father, my mother. That's Maria, the oldest. Paula.
Maria?
Maria. Paula. Lou. No, this is Lou. This is Elsa.
Wait, show me Lou.
Lou here, Lou. The one that went down on a boat.
Okay.
Elsa died very young. She was a nurse. And in the First World War, she worked 48 hours sometimes. She had a heart like, she could never say no. And she died from very young from a heart attack. She'd overworked herself.
This is your
This
father?
is my brother, Franz, who was a doctor later.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is me, Elfa.
That's you.
Annie isn't born yet. Huh?
Yeah, Annie wasn't born yet.
Annie wasn't born yet.
There's 6
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. And we had another brother who died after this girl, Paul, but he died very young.
This is your mother and father?
Yeah, that's my mother and father. I don't know, looks like they're near
This is
in
you.
black. That's me. And that is my first time when I went back to Europe. 1956, I think it was.
This is?
Maria, Franz, that is this one. That is Annie. No, Annie is here, and that's me. Yeah, that's me.
And Annie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this is my stepmother. Her name was Martha. And my father.
And there they are there
And
too.
here they are again, younger, yeah. And here are the two old grandmas, the oldest and the one. Sounds funny, but that's how we
This is
call
your
them.
this is your grandmother. Your mother's mother.
Yeah,
And her
that's
name
my
is-
father's mother.
Her name is
It was Anna Kuchera.
Kuchera?
Yeah, Kuchera. I think it was Anna, my mother's, had the same
And her name was
Laura.
Laura. Okay.
Laura Meyran.
And there you are.
Laura. And here am I, and this was Raymond. I forgot his second name. He had a Lithuanian name. His father was a doctor and had a big country estate, and I went out there in summertime one summer and stayed and tutored the boy. He was bigger than I, believe me, he could beat me up anytime. I was about 14 years old then, I looked like a little girl. And this is in our home, the Christmas tree in different years. Here they are all alone. Here they have children around yet, and here they are all alone.
Okay, this is...
Yeah. This is my stepmother, Martha. This is my aunt from Russia and her daughter. I told you, they kidnapped her and she committed suicide.
Oh.
The Russians. And that's my father. That's his sister. That's the only aunt I have in the world. There were only two.
Huh.
Paula, her name was Aunt Paula. And she was Erika, and that's my mother. So that was 1 year. It was another year. See, that's Lou and Alexander, her husband.
Okay, Lou was the one that got killed.
Yeah, and they both...
In the boat.
Yeah. The boat ran on a mine, and
Did they have kids?
They had the son and the daughter. The daughter is Lucien, who lives, Lou, little Lou, we call her Lucien. And the boy, I don't know even the boy's name anymore.
Okay.
And that's Maria, my oldest sister.
Right, and that's her too.
And that is Annie, and that's me. I'm holding Joke, we had a little dachshund.
This is Annie right here?
This is Annie, yeah.
The one that's alive in Lebanon?
Yeah, in Lebanon and Germany now, yeah. And then, see, we too were a team. And we always had teams. This Paula and Maria were a team. They were closest to each other. Paula, she lived in Russia, they got her over there. She and her husband, they had a big factory there, So they were killed too, I guess. And this is Paula.
This is Maria.
And this is so bad of Maria, but you'll see other people. She was a very good-looking woman. And here is my father and mother all alone in all the pictures at the Christmas tree, see? It's always the same big Christmas tree. Now here is my uniform. See, I told you?
Keep it up.
Yeah.
Wow.
See the little white collar on the neck? Yeah, that's me. I must have been 10 years old. And the shoes, we had these high boots, and the stockings were hand knitted by these old women all the time. And that was a brown dress with a white apron. And there I was in gymnasium, Russia. That was my Russian time, yeah.
Where's gymnasium?
Huh?
You said gymnasium.
Gymnasium. We call it, the school was called gymnasium. Now that's my father, in wartime, when they bombed out the city hall, and that's the city hall, look, that little table, and that was the secretaries and the
This is your father right here?
This is my father, yeah.
Okay.
He was for years and years there.
You don't know anybody else?
Huh?
You don't know anybody else?
No, wait, let me see, I don't think so, I remember them now. They were all co-workers there, My father was the head bookkeeper, and I think that's Marga Shavitz, maybe one of them. No, maybe this one, I don't know. That girl I showed you there, and I said she was a court stenographer or something. Yeah. Now here is more of our family. My brother visited his wife already.
This is your mother?
That's my stepmother and my father. That's my brother. You know, the Franz, the doctor, and his wife. And that's Lou again, the one who went down with the boat. And that's Annie, I think.
It's not you.
No. I was in America already then. And so it must have been after 1927.
How did they feel about you going to America?
Oh, my father, he wouldn't talk to me. First of all, he thought Harold was a boy. He couldn't support me and a man. And he came to the station when I left my hometown. But he didn't talk to me. And the tears were running down his face, I remember. Yeah.
That looks like
He was so angry that I left. He said, "You're going so far." And why, that's Maria when she was old already, shortly before she died. These two are old pictures, yeah, here too. See, that was our church, and that's the organ where she was organist. She played that organ. Here is the organ. I don't know if you can see. And that's Maria and my brother. She died in Hamburg. No, Franz, yeah, Franz. That's my brother, Franz. You know, the same, that's the same guy. When he was younger. That's Maria again.
She looks a lot like you, right?
Huh?
She looks a lot like you.
Yeah, maybe, you know, when you're older, you get more the family picture straight. But my sister and I, we look so much alike, then we never looked alike in our life. Now, this is one of the bridges. I told you, we had the ocean on one side, and it was connected with the harbor where the boats came, and there was a big bridge. That was where the railroad went over. We had here a bridge where the trolley car went over. The city was located on two sides of that harbor, and there was a lake further out.
And what's that up there?
And this is the street, the main street. That is our church. See, that is this church. That's where I went to church Christmas Eve, and we always went up on a tower and we rang the bells and we looked at the stars. Maria was an astronomer. And this was a little park here, Rose Garden they called it. And here was, these old buildings are all old buildings, you know, they made. This was a newer part of town, but here were all the old buildings. Here is Maria with all her pupils.
Wow.
This is Gustav. She became a very well-known, I think she died a couple years ago. Maria's here. See? And Lily is on here. Lily, didn't you meet Lily? She visited me here.
Oh.
My friend, that big fat little girl.
Didn't she die?
Yeah, she died. Now, that is our ocean. See? And this sand was so hard you could ride with a bike and all that. And here were the dunes. And this was the breakwater. See, here is where the ocean went into the harbor. And we always climbed out here, way out, and we got wet and soaked because the waves always hit it. But it was very exciting. I want to find Lily here. This is Lily, I think. She was a very beautiful woman. I think it's Lily. That's Sabek. That's Varanovich. Maria. And I don't know all the... Well, that was the pupils she had, you know. She had like a music school, and they were all very, very gifted musicians.
Okay.
But this one, Gustav, she was really... I had a write-up from the paper that somebody sent me from Germany. And they gave her big celebrations and things over there. Well, here is some pictures of my hometown, if you're interested. This is a school, the boys' school.
You went to that?
And no,
The boys' school?
no. This was a Chinka, I don't know already. They all, this was a toy car there. That was in the other part of town. New Liebau. We had Alt Liebau, Old Liebau, and New Liebau. That was all in New Liebau. See, here is Alt Liebau. This is the Latvian church, a Gothic building. This is a Baroque building, our church. This is again the, I think, part of the Latvian church. This is our church inside. It was
Are all these places still there?
Huh? Yeah, they still stand.
Beautiful.
Yeah. This is destruction already. See how it was bombed out?
From what?
The streets and the buildings.
From the war.
In the Second World War. Here are the roofs, you know. Here, this is the park. See, this is the alley I told you. Not alley,
I know.
a promenade or whatever you call it. That went straight to the ocean. Here is part of it, you know. And this is in a park there. That is a little island and a little, see that little thing here. And this, there was a little hill. We had hills too. Oh, that was so hard to climb up there. And on top of the hill was that little rest place. And what is this now, this building? This is the bridge again, see? The bridge, and this is our park. Yeah, that's the railroad. I don't know, this might be the real bridge, it looks. You know, the bridge where people always went over from one part of town to the other. But here I can see this is completely shut out already. I don't recognize, I couldn't tell you anymore what building it is. This is this little park. I told you there was a park, Rose Park. See here, they had roses. And this is, that was an inner park that went to the ocean, was a big bath. They had mud baths and all kind of treatments and what. And that is that big bath there. This is the marketplace. People came in from the country, they had an open market, and in this building they had butchers and all meat, and so they were covered undercover, you know, but these were all vegetables and flowers and berries and whatnot. See, this is again the bridge. Yeah, this is not the railroad bridge, this is the real bridge. And over this bridge, I was standing here, I saw the first car in my life, a yellow Citroen. Everybody was screaming and what, and I said, what's he screaming? I look around, there comes a car, a little open car. It was yellow, I remember it like today, you know. And that was the first car I saw come over here. This is also a school. I think that's a Nikolai school. That's our tennis place. I played tennis there in a park, you know. That's in this park near the ocean. And this is, I think that's where they gave the concerts or something. This again, the Rose Garden, see? And that's that old street, the church is further down. Here's this little plaza. Yeah. And these are the ocean, you know, and the breakwater and water. Later on, you know, for a time they were all paved, and then they only threw blocks like that. And we kids, we had our life in our hands. We jumped from one block to the other, and there was a deep water and wet.
Did you go back and take these pictures?
No, somebody made them from the Baltic people, and I bought them. They were in a little envelope collection, yeah. And this is again our ocean, see? We lived around there. But this was way at the end, but they had, see how the blocks were just thrown into water to break the water because it went into there. And this is our park, and this is our park. It's a beautiful park. And this is in winter time. And here are postcards. And that's a Latvian church again. That's our church. You know, we lived here. This was, no, the theater was around the corner here. You went around the corner. This is an old building. This is our church. This is the Russian church, the Greek Orthodox. It was the onion towers. This is our, what do you call that?
Lighthouse?
Yeah, lighthouse. At the entrance on the harbor there was a lighthouse. That's also the lighthouse from different... This is our church indoors again, inside. And this is our lake. You see the sailboats here. And this is a school building. And that was another, I don't know, maybe school building or railroad station. I don't know, they look alike. This is a corner. I think Lily's parents had this house. She was on a corner, Kornstraße they called it. You went through there and then you went to the park. This is the section where I'm always wait for her. When I start to go this street, this is a church, I told you. He came around from that corner and had to come out this way. And that's where we met. It was the Catholic church. That's a Catholic church.
You were Catholic?
No.
Oh, I thought
No, we went to school. The school was further out. But we always had to go around the Catholic church, And that was the old Kaufstraat, they called it. I had friends living here. They mostly had business, and the Jews lived on top of the businesses, But I loved so much to go that every morning I went to school. That is one of the old buildings. Wait, I have to read. I hope it's on there. Yeah. My sister lived in an old house like that. The organist got a house, and it was marked 1660 something.
Wow.
Yeah. This is Peter the First. Peter the Great. Sudmala. What street is it? They gave it a Latvian name, Sudmala. Liepāja, I can't read it so far. Peter the Great. Liepāja house of Peter the Great. Sudmala Street.
It's not quite right.
They gave them all Latvian names. See, I don't even remember anymore. It was nearby. We lived in the old section of town. Oh, I tore it up. And now what is this? That is again the street, There was a city hall was on this side. Yes,
over there.
where my father worked, and then came the church. And the city hall had one steps going up this way like a little porch, And then in the city hall they had also the library. But that's where I learned to book about books. My father was a librarian besides. And this is all new. I never saw those buildings. The streets looked like these more when I was there, our church. I guess that's it. Yeah, that's our family. My family and hometown. So, that's how it goes, Cindy. Who's this?
Oh, okay.
Meyran. Yeah, you got the name. And hometown.
Are you holding out?
You want?
Are you holding out? I'm fine. I got
Oh, yeah, I'm holding out. I don't care what time is it.
Well,
It's only after 10.
if you wouldn't mind, just quickly, you don't have to go through it, but
What do you want me to do?
just quickly go through this, so I can get on
Oh,
tape.
you want to take
So I know who it is?
Yeah.
No, not, it's just so that, it's just a
Oh.
record, so that when I go through
Alright.
it, the tape, I can go through this.
Your,
and match it.
your grandfather and grandmother. The old biddy.
Okay.
Well, these you don't want, aren't they, from Haley?
Yeah, no,
Well,
I know who they are, so
Yeah,
it's
you
not
know.
important. I know those people.
yeah. You should know those people. Well, here are all the kids. Oh, here
That's
you are.
you.
Here is your grandmother again, and here is the private chauffeur.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's our gas station. We had that little building here. Little window, I remember, in the door. That's your grandfather, grandmother, and here he is. Takes this up. Looks nice.
Well, I'm going to reshoot all these. This is just to keep a record, so I know what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
This is
now
which house?
Huh?
Which house is this one?
That's in South Belmar,
Okay.
where Haley and Ralph grew up,
Okay.
and where I had most of my children. See here, Karen and Haley were both born here while we lived here.
Karen too?
Yeah, Karen, sure, I was pregnant. There was Karen on all this picture. That's Ralph, of course, and that's your grandpa and Ralph and all the kids. That's my first child. My first baby, Ralph. I should send him this picture. You wouldn't believe it. Maybe he has it, I don't
Talk to
know.
Olga.
We may later cut this, Olga. And here is Harold, pony ride. And here is Ralphie loves his mommy. And that is Ralph and Haley, Haley in Grandpa's lap. in her father's lap.
Okay.
These are so real. Much to see. Oh, that's all, you know. You take whatever you want.
I'm just trying to figure out where they are.
Recognize them, huh?
This is, which house is this?
This is, again, that house in South Belmont. Karen, I expect Karen. See, I'm pregnant.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And here Karen is just born. She's a tiny little baby.
Okay. And
This is cute, Ralph. Huh? I don't know this girl. I don't remember. Sarah or Leah or whatever. She was a Jewish daughter of the people where we live. That's Ralph. And that's Hugo. And
okay, that's right, Hugo.
Hugo, yeah. There was a picture of Hugo and his wife. That was better. This is Mrs. Ullman and Karen. Maybe you should take that.
I got it.
She was the last one, the kids. You know, she didn't want the kids to go away. She loved Karen so much. This is a wonderful picture. I love this alien. Ralph Karen wasn't born yet. Isn't that cute? Alien, she's so darling. She was such a pretty girl, little girl. She's still cute girl, you know.
She's a beautiful
wonderful
woman.
figure, yeah. Her face not, but I like this very much. And this I cherish very much. Our wonderful.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And of course you want to take this?
Yeah. I'm just,
Oh, you did already? Yeah. And here, I don't think these are that interesting.
I'm just trying to know who the people are. Okay, Hugo and his wife.
Hugo. Hugo, we grew up together, you know. And we many years he lived with us once. After you kids left, he moved in because he was just to work from his wife there. And he lived with us. We lived on Central Park, huh?
After what kids?
After you kids. Your mom and the kids, left for Europe. We were so lonely, you know, and he was just the worst and was lonely. And he drove me crazy. Every morning, he loved march music. Every morning I opened my eyes with march music. He put it on. He was an early riser.
That's their grandmother.
Yeah.
Grandpa.
Yeah, the children in Europe.
Grandpa's wife's mother.
Yeah.
I'm getting it.
Yeah. Grandpa's
wife's mother.
Grandpa's wife's mother?
Grandpa's mother's mother.
Grandpa's mother? Your grandpa's mother?
No.
Your great-grandmother. That's your great-grandmother.
I thought...
I'm your grandmother.
I know, but I thought it was her...
Grandpa was her son.
Okay, alright.
No, my father... No, my husband was your grandpa, and that's your grandpa's mother. Okay?
His mother.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking it was... Okay.
No, the grandmother to your mother.
But not your mother.
No, and nothing to do with my family. Yeah. This you could take, that is very cute.
But where was your mother all this time?
My mother was there.
Oh, duh. I mean, your stepmother.
Oh, my stepmother. That's what I say. We never gave her credit, and I don't have much pictures of her. And she was very attached to her family, too. She had a big family.
Okay, I want you to name these people again here.
Gosh. Great-great-great-grandmother. That is your grandfather's...
This is our
father's mother. Your grandfather's father's mother.
Yeah, just say Harold.
These two. Harold's father and mother.
Or here and here.
Yeah.
And that is her mother.
Yeah.
Harold's great-grandmother. I'm Harold's grandmother.
Yeah. Harold's grandmother, yeah. And that is the other grandmother from the father's side. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is Paul, Harold's brother. And that's, I don't know, is that Karen or
looks like
kid? Yeah, looks like Karen.
This is Mom.
Mom, yeah. And with Ralph. That's Ralph.
Who's that?
Yeah. I can't see, Cindy. My ears are bleeding.
Your ears hurt. I can't see. My ears hurt.
My eyes. You know, I have to take the magnifying glass.
Okay.
That is, I think that is Amelia Waldy's mother, as much
That's
as
a woman?
Yeah, that's a woman.
Okay.
And this is a woman, a wife of somebody. Was it Winter's wife or Paul? No, that is Enos? No, that's not Enos's mother.
Yeah, I want to get into that. I want to get into
I don't
Enos.
know.
Oh, sorry, Grandma.
I have to wipe my eyes. You see, when I yawn, my eyes tear. Where is my hanky? No hanky. I lost it again. Mom gave me 12 hankies.
I know.
I start to lose them already. Oh, thank you. Well, these are all your uncles and aunts, yeah?
Where's Grandpa? That is, what's her face?
Oh, that's Ebeline.
Ebeline and Ebeline.
Yeah, you
Okay.
don't care. That's our family, yeah, when they just came back from Europe, more or less. See, that's Karen with her boyfriend. And where is Haley? I don't care. Oh, yeah, see, I can't.
Okay, it's real small together. And this was,
That is Hildur, who helped me raise
yeah, okay, she
Nani.
helped babysit.
Yeah, this you don't have to.
Okay,
That's
I just wanted to see, there's,
Yeah, and that's an uncle, and they helped us, and he helped us a little bit when we came. I know, in my worst
This is your
time, he
boyfriend?
gave me a beautiful iron for Christmas.
that's your boyfriend.
Yeah, my boyfriend, Bill,
And there's Aunt Fleur.
boyfriend. Oh yeah, that's Ann. I love this picture of Ann. This picture,
This is a great shot.
yeah, I like this one. They were fooling around, and I said, Ralph, but I don't even think he played. And Haley and Karen, yeah, they were singing. And this is the children
This
in
is,
Europe.
that's Mom. And this is who?
This, I think, is precious picture.
That's Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
And
I can't recognize who that is.
who was his brother?
No, it's not his brother. It must be a friend of them.
Grandpa's brother. This is Grandpa's brother.
Yeah, Grandpa's brother, Paul.
Okay.
And Haley. And this, did you take these? Yeah, and these.
I know who these people, and this
Yes.
is their,
Yeah. Yeah,
Grandpa's mother.
Yeah, yeah.
Grandpa's mother, okay.
And here are the kids again, and that's Paul. Paul was very attached. He took a lot of care of the kids. This is a good page to take a photo. I love this picture.
This
It
is
looks
Aunt
so
Karen.
cute.
And Mom. I don't know who these kids are.
Yeah, well, it's cool.
Okay.
His just arrived, and he had his first haircut. He was so good looking.
And here too, they just got here, right?
Yeah. Mom, and I think Mom has these pictures.
They just arrived, right?
Yeah. Just, we didn't go away from the dock yet, because I wanted to picture. I took a picture.
Okay.
This is sad, isn't it? Sad?
Very.
This is very interesting. The first picture, hello Mom, see, that I had from Ralph after the war. And this is, I don't know, is that the boat the children came over, or did I come over? Batari, the name is very familiar, but
Okay, these are-
That's a family Sproge
Grandpa.
on a farm. Family Sproge
Right.
on a farm.
This is Grandpa's mother.
This is Grandpa's mother.
This is,
That is Grandpa's wife. Oh yeah, Grandpa's mother. That's right, not the great grandmother.
Harold's mother.
Yeah, that's Harold's mother and Harold's father.
Father.
And that's Paul. I
Paul.
think, yeah.
And this is
that's
Enos's
Werner,
father.
Enos's father, Werner, yeah.
And the guy who went out with one leg.
Karlchen, yeah.
And then the mother or whatever she was.
Yeah. What is this? Did we see this?
Yeah, that was the party, okay.
Yeah. Okay, that looks like cemetery.
I'm sorry, I'm almost done.
No, that's all right. Don't say sorry. I'm always up at this time. Usually I'm I give so much, you know, from my life. Yeah, that's what gets me tired. Yeah. That is Paul and his first wife.
Paul is Grandpa's brother.
Yeah, why didn't I see Harold's grandmother? Oh, there must have been another
Oh, okay.
picture, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there was a cemetery. Oh, yeah, it is, yeah. See, I'm losing them already. And,
This is Gunther's, Harold's brother died. And this is Enos's father, right here.
yeah,
Harold's mother.
yeah. Paul,
Gunther's
well,
dog.
it must be his
And Paul.
wife, yeah.
And the mother of...
Pretty soon you know better than I do.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. It's Harold's father's funeral. But it must have been, I think he saw the children. I don't know. You have to ask your mother. And that is her family again. Harold's father and mother. Your great-great-grandmother and then Enos's father.
And Paul. I'm Grandpa's. Oh, he's over in America.
Yeah, he was in America already. And here he was a silver wedding.
How far away was Grandpa away from Verna?
Well, let's say every 2 year child. That was 2, that's 4, 6 or 8 years, something like, between 6 and 8 years.
And this is Grandpa's mother.
Yeah.
Enos's grandmother.
When you say grandpa, I never think of
That's what I'm
my
saying, Harold.
husband.
Your husband's mother.
Yeah. That's a nice picture.
Your husband's mother, father.
I think it's Paul.
Okay,
Yeah.
over.
That's Gunther. You were in the army, that's where he got so sick. And here he is. They got married, after it came out.
This is the 25th anniversary of your parents-in-law.
Of my husband's father.
Your mother and father-in-law.
My husband's father.
That's your parents-in-law. Your in-laws.
In-laws, yeah. And here they are again, the in-laws.
Okay, we don't have to go through that.
And that is the grandfather.
That is
Harold's grandfather. Your great-grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah?
He was
Harold
married.
is your grandfather, the great. He was married to...
Was this his daughter?
This is, yeah, that's his daughter. That's the daddy of this. And this is the mother. He was married to this lady.
Oh, okay.
I have a picture of both of them. I don't know, I gave it to somebody. That's all. Thank God.
Okay. And that was, you say again, Grandpa.
Yes, Grandpa. Yeah, he was the oldest. He was the only child at that time.
Okay.
I had a picture of the 3 boys. Oh, so cute. I don't know where I put
That's
that.
Valdi.
Yeah. Harold, Günther, and Benny, all 3 boys. And I think one had even a little girl's dress. The way they dressed the baby, children. I hope I put it in Nyanya.
Nyanya?
Nyanya.
Nyanya. Oh, okay, I know you.
Yeah.
I want you to show me.
Now, what else do you need? Oh, you want the map? Take a picture of the map.
Just sign out. Okay, here. Hang on, I gotta...
Here. Here. My finger is showing. Do it this way now. This is Russia.
Okay.
One there.
That was...
Yeah, that's where you originated.
Say it
In
again.
Dream. Lepaya. Well, it was Libava. When it was Russia. Libava. When I was born. And now, I don't know what they call it now. Libava or Lepaya. Lepaya is a Latvian name. Libava is a German name.
This is Lepia.
Yeah, Latvia.
No, alright.
Riga is the main town. Here, Riga. Where is Riga? See, here, Riga. That's the main town.
And you grew up here when you were talking about the ocean.
Yeah, by
right
the
here.
ocean. This is my ocean. Yeah. That's where I grew up.
Jeez.
You see, that's where the Armenian is here somewhere in this part. And that is all Russia. That's the Black Sea. Chorное море.
And you're the Baltic
And
Sea.
that is the Caspian озеро. Каспийское озеро. Sea is озеро. Yeah. And I landed in Arizona. We should put
Oh, I know
the
that.
map of Arizona.
Why don't you sit right there?
Yeah. Going through half the world and landing here, being born in old Europe and dying in Arizona. I just worry who will throw my ashes.
Where do you want to throw
If
them?
anybody does. But throw them out. Open the box.
Where do you want to throw them?
Huh?
Where do you want to throw them?
Anyway, well, I would like to be on the rim, you know, when Ronnie is. But you don't have to go that far. We went out really far.
That's good, huh?
Oh, yeah. Like Michael's, you know, he took me. And he went way wide far. He knows he's a hunter and everything. He knows every part of that country. Oh yeah, I remember the first picture you took of me. I had such a big belly. But now I try to sit like a lady.
No, this is just like...
Let's hide that paper.
Not good.
So, that's a very good story.
This is an heirloom right here?
Yeah,
That's the
that
first?
is what? We married in 1927. That's almost 100 years old now.
27.
Yeah.
This is 97, 70 years old.
1992.
Would be
So
65.
Oh, 65 years old. Yeah, it's over 50 years.
And this table too?
Yeah, and the table. But the first thing we allowed to buy good, you know, what's good for it. This table, you know, it still doesn't shake, you know, the way they make furniture that
I know, they don't make it
no
like that.
glue, nothing, and I was so proud of it because it had higher legs. After I cut the legs, it was more like a coffee table, but I could always keep my books here. And I loved it. And I still love the table. And all these scrabbles are from all you kids, all my kids and you kids.
Gee.
They used to write there and do, and you know, it was...
I can't see your face. No. No. Can you move the lighter closer?
Oh, it has both ones.
Can you shut one? No, shut one off.
This one?
I don't know. Or shut the, yeah, turn that one on and, there you go. Yeah, it's better.
This better.
What's this shit? So I'm getting the dark side on this side. Ow.
Maybe you should take the shade off.
No. What?
They're crazy old girls.
Okay. Well, the last things we talked about, sad things we didn't want to get into, so we didn't talk about. That's fine. So over the years, have you had any hobbies that you can think of? I know you didn't have time, but I know you love music.
So that's my biggest hobby.
Is music.
Music and going outdoors. And reading. I have only 3 hobbies. I love to read. I love books. I love to be surrounded by books even if I can't read them. But I need books. And I like art. And I have, you know, tried to collect as much as I can. Can't stretch your walls. And have no money to buy the thing that I want. And I wish you would take a picture of my star.
Oh.
I love that present, Cindy. My star. Can you get it?
Uh-huh.
The only it's hanging crooked now.
That's all right. Except the writing has gotten lighter. You can't read it. I don't know if you noticed.
I don't know if you get like it.
Yeah,
It's the same.
it's faded.
It did?
Anyway,
Yeah, and I want to mention that my Cindy gave me for my birthday a star. And I often wonder where I'm twinkling somewhere there, if I'll be able to reach it.
do you have any favorite authors? Or what kind of books
Well, I
interest you?
have, but there's so many for
What kind of books interest you?
interest me? Book with psychological background. Books about people and their character, how they develop. But I like good writers who develop really character. Not something like romance where they all so wonderful, or they start fighting or making sex or all that. But I like people that have character and go through life and you see how they handle life. That's what I really like mostly to read about. And I like a good writer. I like good writing, descriptive writing, And of course I like poetry and admire terrific how people can express their thoughts in poetry. And as to music, I like all music. My kids think I like only classical music, but I like jazz and I like folk music, real folk music.
I've heard you listening to country.
Huh?
I've heard you listening to country.
Yeah, country. I like country, but it has to be authentic. It doesn't have something that, is popular. Because there are women, old women that hardly have a voice and they sit in front of their old pioneer houses and with this squeaky little voice they sing their feelings. It's just like jazz. Where did I learn to love the blues? I worked in a restaurant and we had the people who prepare the food. We had in the basement like a little kitchen. And these colored men, when they were chopping the vegetables or what, they all sang their own blues. They made up the words. We had one, he was an obnoxious person, a big fat Negro, but when he went downstairs and I heard him sing, yesterday night I was here and there and I met this and this person, and I did this and that. And his whole life he described in a sing-song. I could have gone up and kissed him. It was so beautiful. Just like little Armenian lady. She sang a Turkish song for me. She sang a Armenian song for me. And it always started with a word like Anyanyunya, something like it. And I asked her, what is it? And she said, that is mother. And from all what her gestures and what she said, I understood that a young girl told her mother every verse. She always started with this Anyunyanya or whatever the word was, I can repeat it, and told her that she must have met this man and he thought that she was beautiful, and then she showed her eyes, and then she sang another verse, and then she showed me her hand, that he put the ring on her hand, and then she went into closing. He must have worked beautiful. But every verse that she sang about something happening, she always thought like, mother dear, listen to this, I don't know, that's what my imagination is, but that's what I understood. And someday, Cindy, when you come, I'll let her sing it for you.
Okay. What would you say are the most, the world events that have affected you the most? I can name two, I'm sure.
Well, I can only say the war, when I lost my children and didn't know where they were, and when they came back, that affected me.
And World War I too?
World War II now? Well, I was a child, and I took it as an adventure, and it didn't touch me so much. Even the death of my sisters, I lost part of my family, as I told you. I was too young to comprehend it really is a tragedy, because we hadn't seen each other for so many years. I was sad, but it was not such a tragedy that I would go to pieces.
So that was probably the
And
hardest.
of course, Donnie dead, but I don't even want to.
How do you spend your time now?
Here? Reading, listening to music, most of the time. When I have to clean, I clean. I hate to clean, and I hate to cook, but when I have to do it, I do it. So, I'm a lazy person. I've worked very hard all my lifetime, and now I just want to sit and do what I want. I get up, and I make my bed all the time. That is a must for me. because before my bed is made, I'm unhappy. I don't know why. And then it pulls me outdoors. I want to go out. Now most of the time I go to Haley in her garden and sit there. Before that, I went to the park, here, or I went for a long walk and hike. And now that I'm getting tired to walk so much, I like to go in the garden and sit there and read and take my book along. And that's...
You still swim though?
Oh, the swimming, now that was only a little... I don't swim like a champion. I swim just to stretch my old muscles and my bones and kick so my knees work a little better. That's the only reason I swim for. But I love to be in water and I like the cold water. Always like cold water. I don't like lukewarm water.
How many grandchildren do you have? Do you know? The trick question?
14 grandchildren. I have 14 grandchildren.
14 grandchildren?
Yeah.
How many great-grandchildren?
And I have 12, I think. I have to count them on my fingers. Now, great-grandchildren is Ralph's one child. I mean Debbie. No, Debbie's a grandchild. That's Well, let's start with Paul. Paul has 2 children. Then Ralph's Kenneth has 2 boys. That's 4.
Rick has 1.
Do we talk of grandchildren or
Great-grandchildren. Great.
Lori is what? My grandchild. Yeah. Debbie, that's 5. Then Peter has 2, expecting the 3rd. Do we count them 2? 8.
Jeremy.
Louise has 3, expecting her 4th. That is 12.
Jeremy.
Jeremy is 13. Yeah, 13 right now.
Yeah. Well, one's on the way, so you're right, 12.
Yeah,
one pending.
12, yeah. Great-grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren. And the birthdays come around every month.
Do you wish you had more time to spend with them?
Yes, I wish I could see them grow up. I wish very much. And I'm very sad that most of them hardly ever write me, and once in a while I get a little picture. But the older I get, the more I cherish, see the next generations grow up and how they are.
Do you have, how do you deal with fears that you have? Do you have any fears at all?
No, I have only fears. I have nightmares. I dream an awful lot. I think I dream more than any other person. And I have nightmares, terrible.
That what?
I still dream all the time that I'm a waitress and I'm always stuck. I don't know the prices, I can make the check, and I can't find the food I've ordered, and I'm breathless and I don't know, and I'm always surprised that the bus didn't fire me. I have real nightmares about that. I worked 25 years in one place, and it was a very, very busy place in New York City, and there was a lot of pressure. And besides, I had to go in competition. We were about 20 all men, and I was the only woman, and I belonged to the same union. And my pride was to make just as much money as a man made. And so I worked myself to death sometimes. But the day came when I could retire, and they gave me a great big party. You might be interested. I have all the little letters there.
Well, that, and you had pictures too, that I've seen you in your uniform.
I gave away all my pictures from my restaurant life.
You gave them away?
Yeah, I sent them to a busboy who lived in, a busboy who became an optometrist and lives in Jacksonville, Florida. And I thought, who would be interested, know all these people, because he worked there as a busboy, and always through, when he went to college and to high school, he always was moonlighting there, and he knows all these waiters, and he knew me, and the kitchen help, and everything.
So you don't have any pictures of you as a
I might have one picture of me in my uniform, but I don't even know what it is. I think I kept one picture there.
Okay.